Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Given here, back another video. Today's episode, we're going over the Rafa Chuck build for Borderlands 4. Starting out with some of the pros of this build is it has very high burst and splash damage. It's pretty good mid-range. It does struggle long range. It does also struggle close range. It has insane boss damage and it has insane mobbing as well. Some of the cons, pretty much all these cons, we do have a workaround for. It has high ammo use. We can offset this through the shield that we'll talk about later. There are some issues with close range because basically you can kill yourself with this build very easily. However, since you have so many bombs dropping all over the place, it's very easy to self-revive on kill. And then this is also weaker versus airborne targets, but we do have a pistol that we can equip that will help with this. Okay, so we'll be putting most of our points into our piece cannons here. You'll notice that we're putting 5 points into asymmetric warfare and 5 points into air at spark. This is going to make our chuck damage very high. And then we'll also get a decent amount of sustain through the hostile acquisition here. So with all that indirect projectile damage that we're doing, we'll get some lifesteal. We're also putting 5 points into confetti here. That's going to beef up our ordnance, which we'll talk about here in just a bit. So going to give us some increased damage there. And yeah, pretty much everything else in this tree is just going to be passive damage buffs. You'll notice that we're taking, of course, the Insta-Fort battle system. This will copy whatever grenade that you actually have equipped, which is really cool. And you can also press F again with your Peacebreaker cannons to basically turn them into a turret companion. So it's going to be the first augment that we're taking. The other augment that we're going to be taking is double auto shot. This is going to allow our Peacebreaker cannons to basically turn into a shotgun with more shells and allow them to do ricochet damage, which is pretty significant as it's 50% of the damage dealt. And we're only putting 6 points into the Arc Lance tree here. So 5 points into Rinse for increased reload speed, very important in the Chuck build, and then 1 point into the Preparato passive, going to give us more action skill cooldown rate. Okay, in terms of our equipment, so we did talk about the pistol here earlier. So the pistol is really only going to be used for ranged targets, and it comes with this grasp effect here. So reloading the gun fires 4 homing copies, which basically means you're just going to throw the gun after you reload, and this gun has a charge up associated with it as well. So it really takes out flying targets very well. You're typically going to be able to take them out in one clip with this. And then if you can't, then typically the reload effect will get them. So it helps us solve one of the major cons with this build is the airborne targets. And then the AR that you'll be taking, of course, is the Chuck AR. So this will be a TDR manufacturer, and this is the MIRV style. So this means that a weapon is basically split into multiple projectiles when thrown. And how do we do the throw effect with the Chuck assault rifle? It's going to come from Pitcher. So that comes from this specific unique weapon effect. In terms of your Reptkit and your Ordinance, so you're going to get large killing spring, and the unique effect on this is going to be something called Blood Siphon. On kill, converts 100% of any excess damage into healing orbs that seek out nearby allies. So this is going to help you kind of stay alive and heal just by killing enemies. And then also Elemental Affinity. On use, grants increased elemental damage by 25% for 8 seconds. So Killing Spring, really great for staying alive, really great for mobbing. We're also going to be taking the Fire Pot Grenade Ordinance. So if you remember from earlier, all that plus damage to our Ordinance from our talent tree, all that's being funneled here into this Bullseye Fire Pot. It has the spicy weapon effect on it, and basically it's going to shoot out a bunch of homing rockets, and it's really good for bossing specifically. It's not quite as good for mobbing. It's still good for mobbing, but really for bossing is why you want this, because all those homing missiles come out and they all funnel onto the boss. For your firmware in your Reptkit and Ordnance, you want 2 Gadget Ahoy. This is going to give us 20% more Ordnance damage. And apologies, had a typo here, but on your utilities, you're going to put 3 points into Get Throwing. And this is very important for the build because any guns that we throw have a 50% chance to spawn homing missiles on the enemy. So you see we're getting even more ordnance damage, even more ordnance damage. We're getting increased splash radius, and all these thrown guns that are going out have a chance to spawn these homing missiles that will benefit from that increased ordnance damage. For our specialization, you'll be putting most points into Gadgeteer. You see that we are going for Riddle You This, though, in the Brute Tree. This will give us a stacking damage effect. And then for Gadgeteer, we're going for this Ordnance damage amp from Full Spectrum Arsenal. And they're also going for this Ordnance critical hit damage and critical hit chance through Fragmentation Payload. And of course, Tripwire through just 1 point in Gadgeteer. Going to give us Ordnance cooldown reduction. And a lot of where this build really comes online is through Full Spectrum Arsenal. because all that ordnance damage is being funneled into our gun damage, which means that our chuck can now benefit from all this ordnance damage that we've been stacking. So where this build really comes online, in my opinion, is through the specialization. Up next, we have mods and enhancements. So you want to make sure that you're getting Digidivider, and this is going to give us a chance to spawn an additional projectile on reload. And this is going to give us a 50% chance to throw another TDR chuck when reloading, which would get us up to 4 total chucks at once. And then for our class mod, we're going to make sure we're getting Cackling Grenazerker. This is very important because this gives us a ton of splash damage, a ton of gun damage, and overall just really beefs up our chuck damage. So pretty much a stat stick here. In terms of our energy shield, you're going to be going the Scrapper Hoarder. And like we said earlier, as a con, this build uses a ton of ammo, and this is how we're going to offset all that ammo that we're using, because each time you chuck your weapon, you're basically sending out a full clip. So if you have 10 ammos and that clip, you're throwing 10, 10, 10. And literally you can go through 100 ammo in just a couple seconds. So you need something to basically replenish your ammo, and you can do that through this specific energy shield. So Refreshments has the unique effect Refreshments on kill, 50% chance to respawn an ammo booster that instantly refills your guns. Has the Absorb effect, when equipped grants 15% chance to absorb bullets, setting them to your ammo count. And then Scavenger on armor segment filled refills up to 20% of the current gun's magazine. There are other ways to get around this, but this is going to be the best way by far, is to run the Hoarder shield. All right, guys, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. See you guys in the next one.